Hello everybody, Danny TCV, the Criminal Violin here. Welcome to CHATTERBOX. So today I want to talk about primarily not so much the trade that the Knicks are going to officially be doing with the Mavericks for trading Dennis Smith Jr., Wesley Matthews, and DeAndre Jordan for Kristaps Porzingis, Courtney Lee, and Tim Hardaway Jr., but so more focused strictly on Kristaps Porzingis himself. Because I feel like, well, obviously, not only is he the primary guy that this trade is surrounding that everybody's talking about, but I want to talk about him as a player and why I feel like any team that actually trades for him is probably making a pretty damn big mistake. Kristaps Porzingis is obviously quite young. His nickname is the Unicorn for obvious reasons. He comes from Latvia, and he is a 7'3", 7'4" power forward center combination with a, for a big man, especially somebody of that size, a fair bit of handles and just other kind of athleticism and skills that you wouldn't necessarily expect from somebody to be that is so big. That said, I feel like that and his potential puts just too much emphasis overrating him and feeling like he's, bound to be an absolute legend or something. Because Kristaps Porzingis has shown throughout his career so far that he's never going to escape injuries, and he's never going to escape major stamina issues. Being able to maintain that, and even just simply over the off seasons and during the seasons, grow his ability to hang on to stamina and to regenerate it and stuff. I mean, he loses it so fast. And I mean, I look at that and I think this trade happened not so much like Ramona Shelburne with ESPN said that she felt like it was basically the equivalency to I'm going to break up with you before you break up with me type of situation. But I don't believe that's the case. I believe why the Knicks traded him is exactly because of those two reasons. And they know that obviously the more they play him and the more he plays, the more frequently it's going to happen. And also the more frequently that happens, the less and less value he's going to have. It's going to slowly start to decrease. I think what they realized was this is probably a mistake, and we don't want to pull another Trailblazers with him, but instead it's I don't know, a Sam Bowie or a Greg Oden situation where it's like, but he might just figure it out eventually. Greg Oden barely lasted 3 seasons before the Blazers said basically F off, because they're like, obviously you're not getting over this. With Kristaps, I don't know if it's so much degeneration as it's just the fact that nobody's thought to look for the core causation of both his stamina and his injury-prone issues. If they looked for them separately, they might find out that they are separate issues, as in they both have different core bases and causations for them. Or they might find that the causation for one is the causation of the other. So in other words, it's kind of like a domino effect. That's what I think a team needs to do, and the trainers need to do with him. Refuse him from playing. Say, you're not going to play. I don't care if otherwise it seems like you're healthy and you're feeling good enough to play again. We refuse to let you play until we figure out, force you basically, whether you're willing to do it or it's against your will, to have to figure out what is causing your stamina issues and what is causing especially your injury-prone issues, because you can't seem to play more than a few games, more than maybe at most, I don't know, a month before, and that's in the beginning half of the season. The latter half, it's not more than 2 weeks before you end up going out with another injury, and of course you're freaking winded within like 15 to 25 minutes of play, because that you can't recover that stamina for a good handful of time. There's something causing that. We need to figure out what the hell that is, and therefore we refuse to let you play until we figure this shit out. And I think that that's exactly why the Knicks said, you know what, we're going to get rid of you while you still have value, before you keep tanking it with every injury and with every season where you show that you can't seem to be able to recover stamina, let alone you can't seem to build any extra stamina either, which is a major problem, especially if you're going to ever achieve endless amounts of potential that we all believe you have. You're never going to get any closer than you already are to that unless we figure out what the hell's happening. But we don't want to spend the time and the resources doing that, because we want to win for once finally get back to that and actually put together a good team. So we're going to get rid of you now. And I think that's why the Knicks did that. Pinwheel Empire, which of course my hometown team is, of course, the Blazers. So of course I follow them and a lot of other accounts. And they put out a quiz on Twitter asking, or rather a question I should say, not a quiz. A question asking if fans feel like the Blazers should try anything they can to trade for Kristaps. Most of the fans said hell yeah, and I said no. I was one of the 20% that said absolutely not. And I even explained in a reply to it why, which was that basically explaining the only way I would ever think it's a good idea and that Blazers should ever pursue it is if basically the only reason why I'd ever think it would be a good idea, and then I'd think, okay, yeah, sure, that's a good idea, let's go trade for him, is if we put him on a minutes restriction so that he shares with all the other power forward centers we have. Since he's a power forward center, he shares a bulk of the minutes with those guys. So with Yusuf Nurkic, with Zach Collins, as much as I hate to say it, as long as Myers Lemon exists, the lost puppy Leonard, and with him, I hope eventually Caleb Swanigan finally gets some time. That would be great. Obviously, Farouk, because Al-Farouk Aminu is officially this season being officially played at power forward, and that's his official position now, is considered power forward rather than small forward. The only way that would work is if he's here, in my mind, and I support the idea, is if he was sharing the bulk of the minutes with each of those guys. So you have already 4 other guys you're sharing the minutes with. So at that point, you'd instead have probably, I'd want to say have Farouk come off the bench, and that is very likely what any team like ours would do, along with, obviously, Zach Collins and Myers Lemon, while starting him, so Kristaps and Yusuf. The problem is that, in my mind, is that you actually probably should bring Kristaps off the bench, because 1, he'd be a major energizer and motivator for the team at that point, and 2, at that point he'd be murdering second units of other teams offensively. He'd absolutely ruin them, and even rebounding and blocks, he'd be able to defend so well against those second, third units that it would ruin other teams, and he'd be able to not only keep our team in it, possibly even single-handedly a lot of the time, but actually also be able to basically direct our own second unit really well and orchestrate, especially the offense, through himself on our team, on our second unit, so freaking well. It would be such a good thing to finally see something like that happen, and that's why, as a coach, I would start Farouk, because he doesn't have much offensive game. He's mainly defensive and hustle, and a good floor spacer. Beyond that, he would get less minutes than Kristaps, but Kristaps would be the guy who'd come off the bench. So that way he'd fit even better with our second unit and murder other teams' second units and third units with ease, especially, again, on offense. It would be the main weaponizing of Kristaps Porzingis on this Blazers team if we ever traded for him. That's what I think most teams should be doing, obviously, is figuring out how he'd best fit on their team, but with the caveat that every team needs to look at him with a severe minutes restriction and be like, no, maybe at max 28 minutes per game each season. We're not going to let you play more than that, because otherwise we're going to really screw ourselves and shoot ourselves in the foot, because you're going to get injured way too much more frequently. You're still going to injure frequently, obviously, you've proven that, but you're going to get even more frequently injured, and you're also going to have your stamina drain even more. The more minutes you play, the worse your stamina problem becomes and the worse your injury problems become. So obviously you're on a severe minutes restriction, and we're never going to let you play above 28 minutes a game. Never. For no reason in particular. Even if we have suddenly a bunch of injuries and both of our injured reserves are now officially suiting up and playing, you're still going to only play 28 minutes at maximum, because we're not effing ourselves like this. That's what in my mind, that's what every team that gets him has to do. They have to keep that in mind. Now, the reason why I see the Mavericks wanting to get Kristaps, and why it makes sense that Kristaps ends up being traded to the Mavericks, isn't so much, again, what the Knicks are getting, but on Kristaps' end, his number one idol and his main guy he always works out with in summer and loves the heck out of and is his main mentor in the offseason is Dirk Nowitzki. Guess what? He now gets to play with Dirk Nowitzki, at least for the rest of the season. Dirk has mentioned that he's going to do everything he can to at least stay one more season probably, which means he'd go to 42 years of age and he'd play through next season, or at least be signed to the team through next season. Especially with Kristaps, that's promising, because at that point, that's a good thing. Another thing is, now you have 3 major Euro players. You have Luka Doncic. I don't know how exactly you say that. I wish I did. You have, obviously, Dirk. And you have Kristaps. And at that point, you not only have those 3, which I think they would help each other a hell of a lot. Specifically, I think having Dirk there with Kristaps is the perfect combination. Like, there's no way that does not suddenly make Kristaps, like, even his health will probably get jacked a little bit, and he'll have a little less problems with other things with this team, as long as they keep Dirk Nowitzki on board. Because just having that kind of a happy place, like, genuinely deep down inside, you're so freaking happy, and, like, you've gotten a dream come true where you get to play alongside and literally be mentored on and off season by your idol. That's huge. And even more so since all 3 of those guys are European. That makes a lot of sense to me. That you could see Kristaps develop a little more this season than we're used to, and potentially suddenly not be as prone to that stuff. And I did end up talking about the trade, which I wasn't going to, so I don't know if I'm going to, in editing, if I'm going to split these in 2, just in case. I'm going to thank you guys for watching episode 4 of Chatterbox. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, please do leave a like, because it shows me you enjoyed and it lets me know that you did. Feel free to leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think. Chat it up, whatever. And I will hope to see you in the next video, in the next episode of Chatterbox specifically. Stay safe, stay epic. I hope you have a great day in there wherever you are, and goodbye.